Hi guys, welcome back to another class for the Musicians Do It Better program. If you don't know me already, I'm Ahana Banerjee and I'm going to be teaching these classes to students to give them a broader overview of the different types of instruments. So if they like a particular instrument, then they can begin to pursue it. So yeah, this is just a broad overview of all the different types of instruments, and for the first 4 classes we actually went over the different types of percussion and wind instruments. So I still do have my YouTube recordings up. So for the first YouTube recording we actually went over percussion. So I showed them different types of percussion instruments. This includes cymbals, wood blocks, and many more. I also went over the different types of mallets that you can use to play these instruments. I also showed them how to make a shaker, which is sort of like a maraca at home, so that they can, experiment with music at home. So feel free to check that out. For the second YouTube video, I went over the different types of woodwind instruments. My sister and I, we played scales, major and minor scales, to help them hear the difference. I played the clarinet and my sister played the flute. We also went over the different types of reeds that you can use, and we went over the different types of sizes. So also feel free to check that out. It would mean a lot to me. And for the last live stream video, we went over voice instruments. So this is basically singing or anything to do with singing, and we went over the 6 different voice types. So that includes soprano, mezzo-soprano, alto, tenor, baritone, bass. We went over solmization, and basically the different types of ways you can use your voice as an instrument. So this pre-recorded video is actually a follow-up from our last live stream class, so the voice live stream class, and I'll be giving you guys a much more broader perspective on voice instruments for this live stream video. So I'm going to do a quick recap of what we learned last week for voice instruments, and after doing that recap, we're going to be talking about the different types of voice warm-ups you can do to get your voice ready for singing, and yeah, we'll get into more of that sort of stuff. So to start off, as a recap, the 6 different voice types that we learned about were soprano, mezzo-soprano, alto, tenor, baritone, and bass. Soprano, mezzo-soprano, and alto are the higher pitched ones, with soprano being the highest, and tenor, baritone, bass are the lower pitched ones, with bass being the lowest. So generally these 2 are divided into 2 different categories. So soprano, mezzo-soprano, alto are actually considered female voice types since they are higher pitched, and tenor, baritone, bass are considered lower voice types and generally for males. So since females have a more higher pitched usually voice, so they would be given the higher pitched registers, whereas since guys, at least when they're older, have a lower pitched voice, they're given the lower pitched registers. So that's basically it for voice instruments, and they mainly use voice instruments, or they at least classify you as a type in chorus or in opera. So as an opera singer, sometimes you may hear, oh, so you're the soprano. So yeah, that's how it usually works. And we also talked about how to figure out a voice type. So first you'll warm up your voice, which we'll get into later. You find your lowest note, highest note, compare the 2, and you find out your range. And then you match the range to the range of all the different voice types. I'm not going to label them, but if you were to do it, first you would warm up your voice, obviously, and then you'd go or as low as you can go, and then as high as you can go, or and then compare the 2. Maybe use a tuner to help you figure out which note you're exactly singing, because even off the top of my head I can't tell which note I'm singing. I can't point at the highest note that I'm singing and say, oh, that's a C. Like, I'll need a tuner to figure out which note I'm actually singing. And then you compare the notes with the ranges from each voice type. So yeah, and then we went over solmization. I know it does sound like a huge word, and you may or may not know what it means, but it's basically giving a specific symbol to each note in a scale. And that still does sound a little bit complicated, so I'll just sing it for you. It's basically do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, ti, la, so, fa, me, re, do. So, yeah, basically that's the scale, and that's how you would sing it generally. This is very important for people who want to sing in a choir or maybe sing with a group, so they can get their voice, warmed up and ready to go. And yeah, it's pretty important to actually memorize the syllables that go with each note. So I would recommend doing that, but I mean, it's not necessary for playing an instrument. So we also went over the different types of instruments that you can play with your voice. That sounds a little bit confusing, but since voice is considered an instrument, there are different types of techniques you can use, or there's different types of singing types. So a few that we went over, and there's many more than this. We went over beatboxing, opera, scatting, and we also went over acapella. So beatboxing is basically trying to imitate the sound of drums using your voice. You may have heard of this already, but I can't do it or show it to you guys since it does take a lot of practice. But you basically take the mic really close to your mouth and then try emulating the sounds of different drum instruments. So you can emulate the sound of a snare drum by using your voice, and then you would usually hum on top of it to form a melody. So yeah, that's basically beatboxing. And for opera, you may already know this, it's usually sung in a different language. Some of the common languages are Italian, French, German, and Russian. And opera is basically a form of theater where singing plays a very strong leading role. So your voice will be one of the main components in telling a story, and it's usually very emotional and heart-wrenching. It's also very high-pitched typically and loud, so yeah, that's how you would sing opera. For acapella, it's basically singing without an instrumental accompaniment. So if I were to sing right now with no instruments, no background noise, then that would be considered an acapella. And acapellas are also sung in groups. So in a group, a singer would probably harmonize with another singer, or they would often imitate other instruments. So a beatboxer can also be part of an acapella or an acapella group. So yeah. Acapellas also include choirs. A choir is also considered an acapella if a piano isn't playing or anything in the background. So yeah. Next we also have scat. Scat is basically a jazz vocal style. So you use random words, but they're not considered words. So it's like shoo-ba-doo da ba da. So you just say incoherent words over jazzy melody, or like say you were playing a saxophone and a piano, then you would just make a random melody with your voice, and it doesn't even have to be coherent. It doesn't have to make any sense. It can literally be random noises made from your voice, and you can consider it scat. So yeah, that's basically what we went over last live stream class, and I've been talking for a bit, but now we're going to go into singing. And I will try to sing as much as I can. I like singing, so hopefully it's not a problem. For the first few minutes, I'll actually show you guys a cover of a song that I learned, so maybe it will inspire you to also sing a song. So I'll do a really quick clip of that, and then I'll go into the different warm-up styles that you can use. So let's get into it. Hi guys, so I'm back at a different angle, and I'm going to be singing Riptide by Vance Joy. Maybe you've heard of it. It's actually really famous. So if you like the cover, you know, check out the song. Maybe you'll like it. And also, I'm going to only be singing a little bit of it because the entire song is a little bit too long for this video. But yeah. And also, after I finish singing, I'm going to go over some of the important stuff about this song that I really want to talk about. But for now, I'll just get into it. So hopefully you enjoy. I was scared of dentists and the dark. I was scared of pretty girls and starting conversations. All my friends are turning green. You're the magician's assistant and their dreams. Oh, oh, and they come unstuck. Lady running down to the Riptide, taken away to the dark side. I wanna be your left-hand man. I love you when you're singing that song, and I got a lump in my throat 'cause you're gonna sing the words wrong. Okay, so that was the entire song. Hopefully you enjoyed it. But what I did want to talk about after was that this is actually an acoustic song. So the original song is an acoustic, but this cover is, because in the background, only thing you hear is a ukulele. So basically, acoustic means that any instrument that isn't electronic. So you don't want a keyboard. A keyboard is not acoustic, but a piano is acoustic. A guitar, ukulele, those are acoustic instruments. So that is what I wanted to talk about. It's another singing type, I guess, or I guess a playing type. Usually acoustic singers sing with like one instrument in the background, and you know, in this case, ukulele was the only instrument that I was singing with in the background. So that is an acoustic cover. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about that for a little bit. But now we can move on to the different singing warm-ups. So there are so many different ways to warm up your singing voice, and I did research a little bit of them, so hopefully you can understand them a little bit better. And these are just some tools to help you understand how you know, your voice's range and how high or how low it can go with you still feeling comfortable. So the first thing that I did want to go over was so is basically humming. Oh, it's like a way to vocalize without actually saying any words. So humming is a really good exercise to do when you want to warm up your voice, because it vibrates your voice muscles, I guess, without you having to actually sing words. So in this case it would be and you want to do that almost every time you warm up your voice, just so you get used to it. And it's basically the do re mi fa so scale, but it's not the entire scale, so it's only it's only from do to so, and then you come down from so to do. So it's not do re mi fa so la ti do, but it's do re mi fa so and then coming down. So you want to keep your lips together and your teeth apart when you're making this sound. So and you want to like not have your teeth touch each other, because then your voice can't really vibrate. So that's what you want to do, and you want to do it at least 5 times before you warm up. And it'll help you develop your range, and it'll help you exercise your lower pitched muscles, because you're not singing the higher notes of the scale, so this helps you for your lower range. So at one point you want to say ma 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 ma. This helps you enunciate. So enunciate is basically your pronunciation when you're singing. So sometimes when you're singing, you know, your words can get jumbled up, or you don't exactly specifically articulate what you're trying to say. Like you sort of just go along with the motions of the piece. But what you want to do is clearly say your words, so that this way, whenever you're singing, every time you want to clearly say a word, so that your audience or your listeners really understand what you're trying to say, it comes out clearly. Because sometimes you can get tongue-tied when you're singing, something. So that's one of them. And obviously after that, you want to sing actual like notes. But before we get into words, you want to sing syllables. So this would be solmization, and you'd basically be singing the do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do scale, and you'd be do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, ti, la, sol, fa, me, re, do. And this just helps you develop, your standard range. So any way you feel comfortable, just start your do, but make sure you go up a note each time. So that'll help you, definitely. And then there's other exercises that can help for your enunciation or pronunciation of the words. So there is one that's called like ma, me, mi, ma, mu, ma, me, mi, ma, mu. Or you can just say, you actually don't go higher as you sing it. You say it in the same tone, because this solely focuses on pronunciation. So you would say ma, me, mi, me, mu, ma, me, mi, me, mu, ma, me, mi, me, mu. And then this will help you, you basically just want to articulate or emphasize the M's in it. So ma, me, mi, me, mu. And yeah, so this will help you with your pronunciation. So just remember that. Another vocal exercise that I'm sure works is basically going like so you want to pretend like you want to like vibrate your lips, just so you get that sort of singing feel. Basically singing is all about the vibrations of your voice muscles. So you want to loosen them up as much as you can before you start singing, or at least get them prepared. So if you're like vibrating your lips, you'll be more inclined to sing better. So you want to go and it's really fun. You just want to go from lower to higher, just so you can again further develop your range and be more comfortable with like singing in what you're used to. So you also want to do that. Yeah, those are a few of the vocal exercises that I researched. You also want to do like songs that you do know. So say I was trying to sing the national anthem. Oh, say, can you see? But instead of actually singing the words, I would try humming it. The thing is about humming, it's, believe it or not, a little bit harder than singing, especially to jump from each note. So it's harder to like change your note, whereas for singing you can always like slightly tone down your pitch or anything. It's much more easier to do it when you're singing out loud. So oh, say, can you see? But you need some more time to pause when you're humming it, because it takes much more of your like vocal strength to like change notes when you're not actually enunciating it. Because when you're singing out loud, you have more time to think about what your next note is gonna be. But when you're humming, you're sort of just jumping from note to note instead of like making it go as a flow. So that's why humming is actually a very important exercise. It'll help you like connect a little bit better when you're actually singing. So If you can do that with a song that you already know, then it's even better because you know how the song goes, so obviously you'll understand if you're doing it right or wrong. And the last thing I did want to talk about is breathing. So before you sing, you do want to do a little bit of yoga just because it's very therapeutic. It helps you breathe better, calm your nerves. It's basically an exercise that increases your lung capacity. So the more that you breathe in and the more that you breathe out, you'll feel like you have more air in your lungs. And breathing is like an issue for all musicians. Like if I'm playing the clarinet, I don't want to breathe in the middle of the piece. It'll sound a little bit awkward and sound disconnected. That's why it's really important to have like a large lung capacity. And that's the same with singing too, because you don't want to run out of breath while you're in the middle of a phrase or a sentence. Like you don't want it to suddenly stop. So having a large lung capacity is very important for a singer, just so that they can make it to the end of the piece without, too much disruption, I guess. So that's one of the secret tips, I guess, to singing better. But yeah, that is it for now. This is the entire video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed and understand a little bit more about how to warm up your voice and the different types of things you can do to help yourself like sing a little bit I don't want to say better, but help you understand singing techniques to elevate your singing styles. So anytime you want to like sing along in the radio, or maybe just for fun, or maybe you want to sing with your friends, or doing like a talent show where you want to sing. So these are some of the warm-ups that you can do to help like increase your chances of success. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed. Thank you for attending this class. I'm going to do another live stream with different instruments, so this is the last day for voice, and hopefully it was fun for you. Thank you for coming, and I'll see you next time.